Welcome to the Uncensored Self Podcast. I am your host, Ryan Gillen, and on this show, ambitious women learn how to create a life they're obsessed with, without the hustle, without the grind, without torturing ourselves, and without following anybody else's rules. This podcast is all about creating our own rules, owning our identity as creator, and hitting every single goal we set for ourselves. Together, we're redefining success on our terms and building lives that look as good as they feel. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the Uncensored Self Podcast, where today we are going to talk about, do you want to be extraordinary or do you want to be comfortable? Because you're going to have to pick one. So this is something that I've been very open and honest as I've invested in new mentorship, and it's been so fun and it's been so good and it's just so refreshing in so many ways. And I think we do this as experts and as high achievers. We're like, I got it. But then, to hear new words, different perspectives, it just has my brain firing in such beautiful ways. And so this is one of the things that came through is the people who listen to this podcast are people who are capable of extraordinary things. Whether or not you're living those extraordinary things, I don't know, right? But you're capable of extraordinary things. I think that's why you are here, right? We talk about energetics match, the energetic of winning. Like, you are somebody who desires to live this really beautiful life. But what you're likely living, or what I know I was living, was a very comfortable life, a life where I had enough, a life where it didn't suck, a life where I wasn't miserable, a life where I sort of kind of did things that I liked and enjoyed, but it was not an extraordinary life. It was not a fraction of what I am capable of. And I believe that we have an epidemic of women in that case, right? Women who look externally successful, women who have achieved a lot of things, who have done all the things right most of their life. Maybe crashed and burned a couple of times, but you've gotten up over and over and over again. But you are not living into that extraordinary potential that you have. And I honestly think that's why so many of us feel so unsettled right now. Because when you are capable of being extraordinary, when you are capable of doing extraordinary things, above average doesn't cut it. And it's annoying as shit because most of the world is actually okay with like average or below, right? I believe that the majority of the world is like, we could just be average, right? Like, if I could just stay here, status quo, enough to get by, right? Like enough wins to kind of scratch my brain a little bit, then I will be okay. And we live in an epidemic of that. So when we have this desire to be extraordinary, it is uncomfortable because most people don't understand it. We wonder, what is wrong with us? What is wrong with me because I want more? What is wrong with me because I want something different than the rest of the world? And so it creates all this dissonance inside of us, but most of the dissonance is coming from the fact that you are not living up to your potential. And I've said this before, and I'll probably say it again, that one of my biggest fears in life is not living up to the potential that is inside of me. I truly believe that I am capable of really extraordinary things, which is why I refuse to give up, right? That is why every time I fall off the horse, I get back on, because I know in my soul, I know in my bones that I am capable of extraordinary things. And I think you know that as well. And so when I was preparing for this and making some notes, what really came through is like, there's this threshold, right? There's this moment, right? Like, you want more, you're capable of more, but you're afraid to leave the comfort of what's fine, right? Afraid to leave the comfort of nothing here is broken. And I honestly think that it is harder to make a change in your life when nothing is broken than it is when your back is against the wall, right? When you hit rock bottom, or your back is against the wall, or shit is terrible or awful, sometimes that is the catalyst you need to really make change, right? Where you're like, fuck this, I'm out, right? I think it's very much a thing. But when you are in a place where you're kind of coasting, it's harder. It's harder to change when you're coasting because you don't have to change. You don't need to change. Nothing is wrong. Nothing is broken. From the outside looking in, it actually probably looks extremely positive, right? So it's hard to look above average in the face and be like, meh, I'd like to take some really big risks in life and go after extraordinary. And when we look left and we look right, we don't see anybody willing to do those same things. It's uncomfortable as shit. So I feel like this is the next chapter, right? The plot twist, if you will, the scene in your story where everything can change, right? Where you are, if you were watching a movie or watching a TV show or reading a book right now, this would be the part where, like, up to this point, this is what this person has lived. And we are at that moment where shit is going to change in a really big way. It is this threshold. It's that creates all that beautiful tension that we see when you watch a movie or you read a book, and you can feel it in your body and you're like, oh my God, something's about to change here, right? Like, this is the moment. This is the moment. This is where the music swells. This is where the main character, you, finally says, I cannot keep doing this. And like I said, what's frustrating about it is because you're not at rock bottom. And so it's easier to stay here because it's not that bad. It's not terrible. Everything is good. And so being willing to walk away from that comfort, being willing to walk away from something that technically works, that doesn't light you up, is actually really courageous, because Most people won't do it. Most people will not do it because they are comfortable enough, they have what they need, and they are used to this level of discomfort and this level of hard. You've seen that meme before, right? The choose your hard, right? So it is kind of hard to live a mediocre life when you are somebody who is not mediocre, right? It is kind of hard to try to fit in when you don't fit in. It is kind of hard to force yourself to do things you don't really want to do, even though you're capable of doing them, right? It's uncomfortable. This is a different type of hard, right? Like what you're being called to do right now, the plot twist that you're being, the pivot, the next chapter that you're being called to is going to be hard in a different way. It's going to be hard in a way where you're going to have to dig deep inside of yourself and decide, am I willing to face all of the things that I have been taught most of my life to not face? Because the one thing that we need to face is ourselves, right? Like here's the spoiler alert of the whole podcast, is the thing that you need to face in this story, in this next chapter, is yourself. And this is so challenging, specifically for us as women, because we have been taught most of our lives that our feelings are not a good thing. Right? We have been taught that women are too emotional. We are too emotional. I don't know if I've told you guys this story before. The guy that I dated before I dated my ex-husband told me once that he really liked me because I was not overly emotional. He's like, most women are just too emotional and you're not emotional. Because, and now I can look back and see what had happened in that moment, was I had been taught that, again, if I wanted to be successful in my career, that there was a certain way to do that. And it was a very masculine way. And the masculine way does not really make a lot of space for emotion. I think, a healthy masculine does, but in that season of life, it didn't. And so I shut him off. Like I just wasn't going to have emotions, right? Because my emotions told me they were bad. And so when it comes time to do this work, we have to face all of those emotions that we have not faced maybe in decades, right? Like maybe never in our life, right? Because we grew up in the age where we were told, if you're going to cry, I'll give you something to cry about, right? Like if you're going to cry, go to your room and cry. Take that shit somewhere else. We don't have time for that, right? I think it's actually even worse for men because they're just taught not to cry at all. Boys don't cry, whatever. Right? Like we have been taught to like just push through the emotion. And while that has served us to a certain extent, it also has made it so all of those emotions are stored in our body. Every single time that we didn't honor ourselves, every single time we abandoned ourselves, every single time we said yes when we wanted to say no, every single time that we showed up with a mask on and we didn't want to, every single time we showed up in performance instead of authenticity, that is stored in your body somewhere. I think that is what is causing the discomfort, right? I don't know this is not, but I do believe that that's where the discomfort inside of all of us is coming from, is we've got all this stored emotion that we need to face to make it to the next level. So this next chapter of your life, right? This next going after extraordinary, you're going to have to face that. And facing that is hard because we don't know how to do it. We've never been taught, right? Like we've never really truly been taught emotional intelligence. We've never really truly been taught how do you feel an emotion without burning your whole fucking life down. We've never really been taught what do we do with these emotions? What do they mean? How do we handle them in a really healthy way? And so the first step of really truly being extraordinary is stop fucking being afraid of our emotions, right? We have to be here in this moment and decide I am willing to look at all the things that I haven't been looking at. I am willing to have conversations I haven't had before. I am willing to admit that maybe there are some things that I have to own, right? That has been a very challenging part of my journey, is I've had to own that like I'm not innocent in any of this, right? Like I was actually chatting with my mother this morning before I hit record about, with my divorce and with my ex-husband, like I have to own that I overlooked a lot of things because I want what I wanted when I wanted it, right? So like I can't say like, hey, here's all the things that went wrong in my marriage and none of them were my fault. I have to own that I made those, right? And so this is the moment, right? This is the moment when you decide, am I going to look this shit in the face it once and for all, own who I am, own my magic, and step into this extraordinary life that I am capable of. And like I said, this comes with a lot of tension. You can feel it in the movie, in the music, in the book. You're like, oh my God, I can't put it down. This is so good. This is so good. What you gonna choose? What you gonna choose? What you gonna choose? And you know in your heart of hearts when it is time to choose the path that you have not walked down before, the path where maybe a lot of what I know and what I do and what I believe is not actually serving me and not actually the key to this next step of my life. Maybe I am not willing to live an average or above average life, and I really am going to go after extraordinary, and I'm going to take that hard, right? It's the choose your hard. You can go down this path. We can stay comfortable, and that feels hard because you're capable of more, or we can decide, hey, I'm going to face all of that shit and really own my magic. And that's what you're being asked to do, because This is what is coming through for me right now is self-leadership, which is so funny, guys. I wrote an ebook called The Self-Leadership Principles back in 2022, and I've really been feeling called to open it and kind of re-edit it. I'm sure there's so many things. So this is how I know that like I've really been led and guided to do this work, because even before I was prepared, like these ideas were rolling around. So it's so fun. But this moment in your life, this plot twist, next chapter, pivot moment of your life is an opportunity for, am I going to go with the flow? Am I going to go with the crowd? Am I going to go down this path that I'm on? Or am I going to lead myself in a completely different path? And what's really amazing about this is that in this movie, in the story, in this book, you're the hero. You're the hero. This is not about you needing saving. You don't need saving, right? In fact, if you need saving from anybody, it's your fucking self. It's from your comfort zone, right? You are the one. You are the one who is going to create this next chapter in a really beautiful, incredible way if you so choose. We have been taught most of our life that we need to wait for permission, or that somebody else needs to go first. We need to find a model of what it is that we want, and we need to follow it, right? We have been taught most of our lives that we can't trust ourselves, we can't trust our emotions, we can't trust our ideas. Everything needs to be bounced off of somebody outside of us. Everything has to be run by somebody else. And so that has equated to, I need permission. I need permission to go down this different path, right? I need permission to go down this road. And that is a lie, right? This is the part of the book where you become the hero. And you realize that, hey, I was always the one who had the option here. My mentor says, you are the problem and you are the solution. This is that moment, right? Like there is no hero coming to save you. You are the hero, and you are going to lead yourself down a path that is very, very different. And most people won't choose this. They will keep coasting. They will keep waiting for the crash, right? They will keep doing this. And the reason I say this, because this is the hardest part, I think, for my extremely logical brain, right? That part that my ex-boyfriend really liked, is like, if it's as simple as facing our emotions and learning to control our thoughts and our feelings and our energy, and we can be, do, and have whatever we desire, why do more people not do this, right? Like my skepticism in universal law, in the ability to create my reality, all came from looking around and being like, why is nobody else doing this? Right? Like if it's this simple, what's the fucking problem here? Right? And that's about what's really hard, is because most people aren't willing to be the hero. Most people aren't willing to be their own hero because they don't trust themselves to be their own hero. They don't trust themselves to make the right decisions. They are too afraid of dealing with the emotions of, what if I play big, right? And in the Energetics of Winning series, I did an entire podcast, Playing to Win, right? But what if I play to win and I lose? And that feeling of disappointment is so big that I can't handle that. So what has to happen here, when you decide at this point in the story, I am the hero, right? I am the hero in this story. That means, if you go to any movie or any book you've ever read or watched or whatever, the hero gets their ass kicked a handful of times, right? It's not like the hero steps in and, right? Like it's not this happily ever after moment like we're taught in fairy tales, right? The hero does get kicked around a little bit. The hero does have some challenges. The hero does have to face some adversity. And so we have to decide, am I willing to face that? That's what I'm talking about. Choose your heart. Am I willing to face that adversity? Am I willing to face the massive disappointment of going all in and being my own hero and possibly being disappointed, possibly not getting where I want to go as quickly as I want to go? Am I willing to deal with those emotions, right? Am I willing to deal with the potential ripple effect of, if I play to win and I don't, right? That is what it means to be your own hero. But what's really exciting about this, guys, is that it's an internal shift, right? It is an internal shift, because every single thing that you want in your life, whether it's a money or a promotion or a new house or your relationship or your health, it is all about a feeling. You want what you want because you think it's going to feel a certain way when you get there. I'm going to say that for you again. You want what you want because you think that it's going to feel a certain way when you get there. When I make X amount of dollars, then I will be happy. When my business looks like this, then I will be free. When this happens in my relationships, then I will feel love, right? But the problem with that is the feelings don't come from the things. And you know that. I know that you know that, because you wouldn't be here listening to this right now. If you thought the external things were actually going to give you the feelings that you want, you wouldn't be listening to this podcast, right? Because feelings don't come from things. Feelings come from identities. Feeling comes from, what am I willing to face? The feeling comes from inside of you. So the job, the money, the partner, the house, the body, they are byproducts of the person that you become. They are not something outside of you have to go do. And so when you decide to live an extraordinary life, you don't have to go do more or try more or prove more. You have to make the internal shift. You have to become the person that easily attracts the job, the money, the partner, the house, right? You have to become that person. And the reason why this is so challenging for us is because it's uncomfortable, right? And let me tell you this, you cannot, I've said this a million times, and it's one of my favorite things to say is an Abraham quote. You cannot have an unhappy journey to a happy place. So if you were like, hey, I know that my marriage isn't 100% right now, but once I get through this season, once I get through this quarter, once I get through this project, once I get through this, and this, then I'm really going to take the time to work on my marriage. But meanwhile, your marriage is falling apart around you. You're fighting with your partner all around. There's no connection. There's no love. There's nothing, right? There's no intimacy at all. And you're like, later. That later is not all of a sudden going to arrive and all of a sudden things are going to be good, right? You don't get to be miserable on the way to joy. So every single thing that you are putting off for later and later and later is not miraculously going to fix the thing. And so what has to happen on this journey to extraordinary is realize it's not about chasing. You've been chasing your entire fucking life and you haven't caught it yet, whatever it is that you're chasing. You have to start becoming. You have to start becoming. And what I love about this, what I think that this is such good news is that women like you and women like me are like, cool, I am used to carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders. So I got broad shoulders. I can handle it, right? But you're going to have to handle it in a different way. This isn't handle it and I'll just do more. I'll just bury myself in work. I'll just pretend that everything's okay. I'll just get to it tomorrow. That's not fucking handling it. That's avoiding it. Handling it is turning around and facing it head on and being like, how the fuck did I get here? And I think one of the scariest things for us, again, this is specific to what I know about women, is that we know that owning our power is going to cost us. Because there are people in our lives who love the current version of you. The agreeable one, the one who doesn't disrupt, the one who just does what needs to be done, the one that doesn't push the issue, the one that doesn't, challenge you. And not that you don't challenge people. I know you're a challenger, but it's like they know what to expect from you. Right now, there are people like, I like you here because I know what to expect from you, and this feels safe for me. And when you choose to become extraordinary, those people may not clap. They may not be okay. And this is why so many women sabotage at this point in the story, because they don't want to make other people uncomfortable. They don't want to leave people behind. This actually came up the other day in a conversation in business therapy where one of the women was like, hey, I'm noticing myself self-sabotaging a little bit, which we celebrate the shit out of. Like once you start to notice your triggers and when you're leading yourself astray. But what's underneath that is always the question that I ask. And it was like, no, I'm afraid. She said, I'm afraid that as I do this work, that people aren't going to like it, right? That the conversations I'm going to have and the choices I'm going to have to make and the time commitment that this is going to take, and that people aren't going to like that. And I'm really afraid of that. And I think, again, it winds up happening primarily with our spouses, right? There's a lot of women that are like, I'm growing, and is my partner growing with me? I don't know. I also think that, sometimes it's the people in our family, it's our mom, our sister, whoever it is, it's that friend that you had forever who's just kind of become, a crutch in your life. And you're like, shit, when I go to do this work, this is not going to go well. This is not going to be well received. And that feels really, really hard. And I get it. And I understand it. And I've been there. And I obviously I got divorced, right? Obviously I made some different choices, but here is where I realized I was in this journey. And here's what I'm going to share with you is you have two choices right now, right? You have two choices. You can stay small so that those people are comfortable. Option one, stay exactly where you are, be who you are, fit in the box that they put you in so that everybody else is around you is okay. Even though you're not living up to your potential, even though you're not happy, even though you're not fulfilled, even though you're not really going after what you want in your life, you can stay small for other people. Or you can say, I am not willing to sacrifice myself for anyone else. And this is so hard because we're like, but my kids, but my marriage, but that's my mom. Yes, I know. Not everybody is emotionally healthy, guys. Not everybody is emotionally healthy enough to celebrate when the people around them win. And I don't know how to fix that problem other than to continue to have conversations like these and to challenge women like you to say, am I willing to stay small for the sake of somebody else's comfort who doesn't want me to win? If a friend came to you and said, so there's this person in my life who, if I grow, they're not going to clap for me, what would you tell that person? You'd be like, fuck them. And they're like, but it's my mom. And you'd be like, oh, well, yeah, I don't know, right? Or, oh, but it's my husband. We're like, oh, yeah, but I don't know. But my question to you is if the people in your life who are supposed to love you unconditionally, your mom and your husband, right? And these are just examples, substitute whoever this is in your life. Why would they not want you to succeed? And if they don't want you to succeed, is that a you problem or is that a them problem? And I know that sounds callous, but somebody had to fucking say it. If you were staying small because of your husband or your mama, who does that serve? Because it certainly doesn't fucking serve you. You were never meant to stay small to protect somebody else's comfort. That was not what you were called to do. That's why you're so gosh darn uncomfortable right now. That's why you're standing at this precipice of your life. Am I going to continue to be above average, or am I going to be exceptional? Am I willing to, because you were willing to sacrifice yourself, right? That's why the mind game, the hard work journey, like I can sacrifice myself. I can torture myself. I am okay with doing the hard things if I'm the only one who has to take them on. But when it comes to doing the hard things and it possibly impacts other people, we're like, yeah, I don't know. The number of women who I've talked to who are like, I can't ask my family to do that. I'm like, I don't know why you're asking. It's your life, right? And like I said, if this conversation is triggering you right now, it's an opportunity for you to reflect and ask yourself, where am I playing small to make other people comfortable? And is that really what I want to do? Is that what I would advise my children to do? If that's what I would advise, if my spouse came to me and said, this is a situation that I'm in, what would you advise them to do? You would never advise anybody else to stay small for the exception of somebody else. Why is it okay for you? Other than it is easier, other than you're choosing comfort, other than you're choosing that path of hard. When you choose the path of extraordinary and you choose that level of hard, you have to have uncomfortable conversations. But what's really cool about it, some people aren't going to come with you. I'm going to be real honest with you, right? Some people aren't going to come with you, but what's really cool is the people who like you're really a match with, the people who are really meant to be in your life, the people who are an energetic match to the extraordinary life we're talking about, they're going to rise with you. They're going to rise with you because we're so worried about who is this going to negatively impact that we've stopped to ask the question, who does this positively impact? Who else wins when I do this? Because when you become the best version of yourself, when you live an extraordinary life, the ripple effect of that is fucking bananas, right? Maybe that inspires your mom to get her shit together and finally, go do whatever it is she needs to do. Maybe it inspires your husband to finally chase that dream he's been chasing. Maybe it inspires your children to do something great in the world. Maybe it inspires your best friend who's been in a shitty marriage for fucking ever to finally leave. Like, what happens when you choose exceptional, right? Like, we're all over here like, I don't want to rock this boat, but what if you did? What if you did rock the boat? Who else benefits? Because again, all we can think of is that when I rock the boat, here are the people who suffer or could potentially suffer, or this is discomfort I might face, instead of thinking, if I rock the boat and when I live an extraordinary life, who else gets to reap the benefits of this magic? Who else gets to experience an extraordinary life because I chose extraordinary, right? Because staying stuck when you're meant for more is hard. Becoming the most expressed, powerful version of yourself is also hard. But one leads to regrets and the other leads to an extraordinary life. So as you sit here, wherever you are, maybe you're walking, maybe you're driving your car, maybe you're folding laundry. Those are the things I'm usually doing when I'm listening to podcasts. Are you going to claim the plot twist, the pivot, the next chapter, the role, and step into your extraordinary life? Or are you going to stay comfortable? Because you can't have both. Believe me, I've tried. I've tried to live with a foot in both worlds. I'll be extraordinary over here and I'll be who they want me to be over there. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. And the only person who suffers is you. And it has been long enough that you have been carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders, not tapping into the energy game, not tapping into your non-physical resources, not tapping into your potential. It's been long enough. You can't have both, friend. Extraordinary is going to lead to some challenges and some hard conversations and some shit you're going to have to face. But are you willing to face those things and lead an extraordinary life? Or are you going to stay where you are? Because it's too hard. You get to pick. See you next time. Thank you for tuning in to the Uncensored Self Podcast. If you're walking away with a new perspective, some fresh inspiration, or the push you needed to show up as your uncensored self, I'd love to hear about it. Share this episode, leave a review, and don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. Remember, success isn't about following somebody else's rules. It's about owning who you are, deciding what you want, and going after it unapologetically. Until next time, keep leading, keep creating, and stay uncensored.